Hi there guys, and welcome to another edition of the Cover Zero Show with me, your host, Simon Conboy. Just continuing to plough through the free agency first wave reviews. This episode will be focused on the NFC powerhouse Seattle Seahawks. In my opinion, one of the top all-round rosters in the NFL, with the one glaring hole being the offensive line. They've been, very effective last season in spite of an atrocious offensive line that frankly just cost them games. Russell Wilson was under siege most of the year. He took some absolute beatings. I mean, there was the game against the Bucks where they just couldn't get anything going on offense. Similar story against Miami. They managed to eke that one out at the end. But for most of the day, it was just Russell Wilson being hounded. Weren't very productive in the run game. Christian Michael was a disappointment. Procise was looking pretty good for a period of time, then he got injured. I like the receiving crew. Wilson's developed into a really good quarterback. Defensively, still a really, really good team. Good pair of pass rushers in Avril and Bennett. Bobby Wagner's possibly the best inside backer in football at this point in time, and of course the secondary is very, very good. We saw when Earl Thomas goes down, some struggles there. As I've said, safety is a position I feel teams are starting to really appreciate the value of in the modern NFL. But going into next season, it feels very much like they're another team set to contend, likely to win that division. You'd think Cardinals might challenge them. The other two teams do not look close to ready to dethrone them as the team to beat in the NFC West. Expect them to make the playoffs, shoot for another deep playoff run. In terms of the needs, the main one, tackles and guards. That offensive line just simply has to be better. It's hard to imagine them beating, if they bump into a really good defensive team in the playoffs, it's going to be hard to see how they could be productive based on what we saw last season. They've addressed running back somewhat, which we'll discuss shortly. Possibly, if Procise comes back, that might be a pretty good group. Other than that, it's a really strong roster. It's just kind of a case of getting some more depth. You can always do with more corners. Defensive tackle, actually, I think defensive tackle is a need for them. There's no real outstanding players there. If they could get someone to bring a little bit of pass rush and sort of shore up the run game a little bit, that would take that defense to another level. They're at their best when that front four is getting home early and often, and I think an interior pass rusher would be something that would really assist with that. They wouldn't have to move Bennett inside as much, which is always a fine idea, to be honest. Still bitter about the Buccaneers letting him go. Everyone who knows me knows how annoyed I was when Tampa opted not to re-sign him. The biggest mistake of the Greg Schiano era, possibly other than hiring Greg Schiano in the first place. That certainly did not work. As you might expect for a team, this loaded. Of course, they haven't got a huge amount of cap room either, as you might expect. A lot of those defensive guys are on very large contracts. Russell Wilson as well. They don't have a huge amount of money to spend. They don't really need it. The roster is, possibly, if not the best in the NFL, is top 3, top 4. Pete Carroll, John Schneider done an amazing job there in accruing talent. So they signed Luke Jokel to try and address these offensive line issues that they've had. An absolute bust. Was the second overall pick just a few years back in what ended up being a pretty terrible overall draft. 1 year, $8 million. This is an overpay. I don't know if they've brought him in to play guard or tackle. It could be either. We don't know. Either way, he's not been particularly effective at either spot. Clearly, to be drafted number 2 overall, you've got some physical talent. It may not have shown itself thus far in his career. Hopefully for the Seahawks, it will. I don't understand why he got this much money. I mean, if you look at like Chance Warmack, for example, who was signed by the Eagles, that move was hard to criticise. Same draft. I think it was the same draft. Either way, he was a top 10 pick on the offensive line. He got 1 year, 1.5 mil. Now, I guess he might be playing left tackle, but even then, $8 million a year is Yeah, that says to me, he's going to be a starter, and I don't know if you can pay him that kind of money and say, yeah, we're happy going in with Luke Jokel as a starter based on his tape in Jacksonville, because it is that bad. I'm not a fan of this move. I think it's one of the worst in free agency thus far. As I say, that market isn't a good one. There's been some horrific contracts handed out, and this one ranks among the very worst of them. The other move they've made was bringing in Eddie Lacy on a 1-year deal. Perfectly fine. Of course, he's probably the closest runner you'll get to Marshawn Lynch in terms of style. Came in apparently overweight. Pete Carroll's apparently laughed that off and says, well, I want him playing heavy. The weight issues have been a big problem throughout his career. The man likes his food. If people follow him on Twitter, I actually don't, but I have seen a lot of the bits. I might start following him. Probably should. Really fits what they do. As I say, is very much an attempt to replicate what they had with Marshawn Lynch in terms of just a big physical power runner. This is a move that could really work out. Fits exactly what they do. A fan of it, to be honest. It's low risk, improves what it's better than what they've got at that position. Him and Procise, if he comes back healthy, ready to start the season, offer two different skill sets. So yeah, really nice signing. Can't criticise it too much. If it doesn't work out, it's on Todd Gurley, Eddie Lacy himself. So we'll see what happens there. They're going to need a new kicker. Stephen Hauschka's gone. But other than that, not too much movement in Seattle. You'll probably see this as a bit of a running theme for some of the more consistent franchises in the league. They don't necessarily have too much to do at this time of year. They've kept quiet. I expect there'll be more signings to come sort of closer to the draft, possibly after, once the market sort of settled down a bit. The needs remain very much the same. They haven't really been attacked. Unfortunately for them, offensive line is deemed a weak group in this draft. I'd imagine they could probably get one of the top guards in the first round. I would kind of expect to see that be the case. Apparently it's a good defensive line group, so they can try and get a tackle. Hope Jerron Reed continues to develop for them. So, of course, things looking up for the Seahawks. Expect them to be a contender once again next season. They can fix that offensive line. They become one of the favourites for the Super Bowl. I mean, they may be one of the favourites even if they don't. But it's clear. Anyone who watched that team last year is abundantly clear. You don't need to be a rocket scientist or a football expert to see that was the issue. So if they can get that fixed, sky's the limit. Good team. They've done a great job the last few years drafting. Very hard to be too critical of them. So, what do you guys think? Do you think the Seahawks Super Bowl window is still open for the next few seasons? I mean, I find it hard to imagine you wouldn't, but I'm more than happy to discuss why you think so. If not, do so in the comments below. Head on over to the Facebook page. Contact me on Twitter. Any of those will work. I'll do my best to get back to everyone. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And check out the Patreon. That would be cool. It's always a pleasure. Check out some more of the videos if you enjoyed this one. Best of luck to your team in free agency. And as always, go Bucks.